Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk or sometimes drive home from the movies. And today we're going to another Cork Film Festival screening. This time it is Aftersun with Paul Mescal. Is it Mescal or Mescal?
I have no idea. But it's a movie that we've been hearing loads of buzz about, and lots of people saying they really like it. It's getting nominated for loads of awards. I think it won an award at Cannes. And it's by Charlotte Wells. She directed and wrote it. This is her first feature film, so it's quite a big deal for her that it's getting this much praise. I can't wait to see it.
And he's so hot right now.
My favourite thing about the pandemic was the Cunnell's Chain Instagram page. So for anyone who hasn't seen Normal People, Paul Mescal is...
That's me. I haven't seen Normal People.
Yeah, Dave hasn't seen it. But Paul Mescal is very, very fantastic in it. He's a brilliant actor, but he had a gold chain that his character wore. And, look, it was March 2020. These things happened. Millions of people became obsessed with this necklace.
What a world we lived in. The Tiger King and this Irishman's chain with the things on everyone's lips.
They were.
Society crumbled.
I know. But now I'm really happy that this movie's on everyone's lips because it's female filmmaker, director, which we know is really hard for a woman to get a film made. And I've seen pictures. Thanks for the segue. Yeah, I've seen pictures or really short clips of it, and it looks really beautiful. So I'm super pumped. But anyway, we leave it at that. We'll see you all on the other side.
What's it about?
I just know that it's about a father and daughter. That's it. So
I actually know very little about this movie.
Yeah, me neither.
Which I like. This is my ideal conditions for seeing a movie.
Best way to see a movie, and we're going to see it in the Everyman, which is a really lovely theatre in Cork, which is really fun as well. And I know we jokingly said in our last episode when we saw Aisha that we were going to watch a third Irish movie in a row because it's so rare to watch Irish movies.
Is this an Irish movie?
No, but she's Scottish and he's Irish, so I feel like we've gotten pretty close to it actually.
Yeah? This doesn't make it an Irish movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like we're continuing in that vein.
I don't think so.
I'm excited.
If you have an Irish actor in your movie,
you have an Irish actor, an Irish actor and a Scottish writer-director though. And also one other thing I read.
Maybe you could chalk one down for the Celts.
Yeah.
But I'm not giving you this.
But guess who's the producer on the film? You won't guess. Barry Jenkins.
Oh wow.
Yeah, of Moonlight fame.
Yeah.
So even more excited to see his name there. So anyway, we'll see you all on the other side.
Bye.
Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Dad, no, they're like kids. Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Sophie, they're old.
Think you'll ever move back to Scotland?
No.
Why?
There's this feeling, once you leave where you're from, that you don't totally belong there again. You okay through there?
Don't you ever feel tired and down and feels like your bones don't work, like you're sinking?
We're here to have a good time, eh? You know, I want you to know that you can talk to me about anything as you get older, you know? Done it all and you can too.
Okay, hi, hello, we're back in the car and we have seen Aftersun. If it's your first time here at the Cinemile, we don't spoil the movie. There's not much to spoil in this movie, but nonetheless we will turn onto spoiler street. I will clearly indicate with my indicator, which you will hear when the spoilers are coming. But firstly, let's talk about kind of maybe just give a tee up to what this movie is about and then whether or not we would recommend it. Kathy, throw to you.
Well, it's a really interesting movie because it just takes place effectively over like a week. A father and daughter are on holidays together in Turkey, and they're Scottish. So I kind of take back what I say in the intro. It felt like a Scottish movie because he also had a Scottish accent in it.
Not an Irish movie.
Yeah, not an Irish movie.
It is the 90s also. I think that's important.
Was it 90s or was it like early 90s? I couldn't quite tell.
Oh, good question.
It's in
for
or
me,
around.
Very much the 90s. It would be my guess.
In or around
could have
there.
been the year 2000 or 2001 potentially.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack.
Great soundtrack.
It's the soundtrack to our youth.
Exactly, yeah. Like, we were probably the age of the girl in or around when we were in that movie. What is she in this movie? Like 14?
She's 11.
Maybe? Oh, she's 11, right, okay. So it's a really interesting movie because I would say I feel like it might be a bit of a Marmite movie because from the reaction of sitting in the audience, it felt like some people were very enthralled, like Dave and myself, and some people were like kind of visibly
on their phones,
visibly whispering to each other, like quite bored. So I'll say that up front to our listeners.
Don't be on your phone in the cinema, please.
Well,
God.
our
That's the
listeners,
most obvious thing.
Our listeners would
No,
never
I know.
do
Our
such a
listeners
thing.
would never do that.
But anyway, how I felt about it was like I was really enjoying it at the beginning, and it's very much a movie where like not really much is happening, and it's just like a lot of quite quiet and simple scenes back to back, and
it's more immersive and atmospheric than it is narrative driven, right?
Exactly, and I was really enjoying that, and I like a complete different pace of a film, and just to be kind of letting it wash over me. The young girl is phenomenal.
Oh yes,
Apparently
they're
auditioned.
both incredibly.
I mean, they're
good.
brilliant.
Oh my god,
but she's like, it's her breakout role, and like they auditioned hundreds of little Scottish girls to find her.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she reminds me so much of our little niece Niamh.
She's so like
she's so our
Niamh,
little
yeah.
Scottish niece. And then Paul Mescal's brilliant with her. They have brilliant chemistry. Like, they're wonderful on screen. And their dynamic is very interesting, and it feels like a very honest depiction. And I know the filmmaker, it's kind of has hinted at the fact that it's somewhat autobiographical. Now there was a point in the film where I suddenly thought, oh god, this feels a bit long and I'm getting a bit bored, if I'm honest.
Okay.
And I thought if I was watching it at home at that point on the small screen, I may have paused it or turned it off. But I wasn't. I was in the cinema, as you should be watching a film. And as it continued, then I ended up being kind of knocked over sideways with emotions, and it really struck me to the point where I kind of was like weeping as the film ended. So I had actually a lot of emotions, and it's very immersive. And if you can just go into it knowing that you just kind of like sit back and let it wash over you a bit, I really recommend it. I probably don't recommend it if you're just sitting at home and looking to throw on a movie. I don't think it would work.
That's what I was about to jump in and say. If you can see this in the cinema, or if you're watching it at home and can commit to not pausing it, not talking, keeping the lights on, that I think that really is the best way to experience this movie. Mm-hmm. I think this movie, the sort of illusion and the momentum, it'll all be shattered if you do what we do and what everyone does by like pausing it to go make a cup of tea, go to the toilet,
like
have a
we'll often
conversation,
pause the film at home,
come back,
do the laundry, come back to another movie, think, oh, actually I'll just go and make the kids lunches there for school tomorrow. Like, we kill movies at home.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right way to experience this movie, because I think what this movie does really effectively is it very much places you there. I felt like you feel like you're on this holiday with them. It's very personal. It's interesting because you see two sort of perspectives here, right? Not perspectives, but you see...
It's primarily her perspective, I'd say.
Sorry, I meant to say, what I'm trying to say is that you see through two lenses, literally. You see the sort of the film as it is happening in all of its private moments. Then we also see through their video camera a lot of the time, right? And I think that's quite interesting, what you see between how people act and what they when they're on camera and what they choose to film, which is the lasting memory and impression of a holiday versus the reality of the quiet moments in between and everything that is happening in someone's life that they bring with them on holiday, as much as it's parked, but it is, as much as a holiday is an escape from whatever you may be dealing with in your personal life. it is not a full escape. And I thought this movie also effectively really handled very dark and tricky sort of subject matters with I think a deftness, and also without explicitly saying any of it. A lot of this movie is just implications and vibes, but I found it very emotional. I found it very hard, a bit slow to get into. I think in this movie you either are on its wavelength and you go with it,
because we saw a few people we know afterwards, and they were like, "Meh."
Yeah, we spoke to a few people afterwards, and I really don't think this movie is for everyone.
But then in the bathroom, because like it's after the film festival and everyone was there, like really excited to see this film because it's the only time it's on, and like it was buzzing, like the bathroom, of people being like, I loved it, people being like, I cried, people being like, I found it really boring. Like there was loads of discussion around it. I think it would definitely spark conversation.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be a film that you just watch and go and just never speak of again, because it's really unusual.
It is unusual,
Yeah.
and this is her first feature like writer and director. It feels very different. She does like, she zigs when you'd expect a filmmaker to zag. Like,
I actually don't think it felt like a debut at all.
No,
like it felt really like a filmmaker. To me, it felt like a filmmaker who's like, I've done so many films that now I can make like the private, intimate film I always dreamed of.
It feels like she's really confident, knows exactly what she wants to do. Like there are moments, and this is a great example of the Marmite thing, right? You will either be with this, or you will say, "Get me the fuck out of here," right? Because there's a scene early on where it's maybe a 4 or 5 minute scene, which is just him lighting a cigarette on a balcony, right? That's one, and I was really
into that scene.
And it pans between him on the balcony and his daughter in bed asleep and breathe. So the only audio is her breathing, and then it kind of pans back and forth between the two of them for 3-4 minutes, or it felt like it. And you either just go with that and let that happen, and just, as you said very brilliantly, like let it wash over you. That's what it is. Or you will sit there getting frustrated and fidgety and thinking, get on with it, like what's the point?
Like the teenager sitting next to me who went for Paul Mescal and not for the film. I do have a question.
It was packed. There were a lot of what do you call the Paul Mescal fans? Are they meth heads?
I have no idea, but what did you think about his legs? Because they're the legs that launch 1,000 memes.
What do you mean? I thought it was the chain that was the meme.
He wore gas shorts in Normal People, and everyone's obsessed with his legs.
With his legs?
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, I didn't notice his legs. I thought he looks incredibly Irish.
Yeah,
like, I did not buy that he was Scottish at all.
Yeah, but Irish and Scottish people look so alike.
No, but there are certain, just like, he just has a big Irish head on him. Like
a very handsome one. Because actually, like, we are not authorities in Scottish accents, so we can't judge. I'd love to know what our Scottish listeners think, because we have both lived in Scotland before and have Scottish family. I thought his accent was very good, and he did the right thing of just having a very subtle Scottish accent. They also said his character doesn't live in Scotland anymore, which kind of helps it be quite neutral.
And they said he was from Edinburgh, which that's a more mellow sort of accent tends to be anyway. But anyway, no, I mean, yeah, as you said,
brilliant.
not an authority, but I there weren't any times where I was like, oh, you're not Scottish, even though you know it. Like
he's an incredible actor.
Oh my God, he was fantastic. They were both amazing, but like
apparently they only had 2 weeks. We'll go to spoilers. I was going to say they'd only 2 weeks together before filming to like hang out because of the pandemic. So that the level of comfort they had with each other, if you consider that, because often people spend months with kid actors.
And that's not that's a make or break thing for this movie, and it's not an easy thing to switch on, because like the level of intimacy that is on screen between the father and the child is down to, like her lying on his lap and him stroking her eyebrows and things like, the sort of
it's
physical intimacy that a parent and child would have, but could be very potentially awkward with two people who've never met before, or have met for 2 weeks or whatever.
And also could be really inappropriate with a young girl.
Well,
like,
exactly.
Extremely careful on who you cast as the dad as well.
Yeah.
And like they just seem to have lovely energy. Also, he's playing like a young dad, and they have that kind of youthful energy. So we're going to go to Spoiler Street on this now. So Dave, indicate for Spoiler Street.
I'm not actually going to
There's no
indicate
cars behind
in case
us.
somebody think. Oh, you actually want me to indicate?
There's no cars
No,
behind
Kathy,
us.
I am playing by the rules of the law.
Okay, so we're on to spoiler street now for Aftersun. I feel like there's like almost nothing to spoil about this film, but can I tell you like what it made me feel?
Yes.
Which may be a spoiler, so that's why I didn't say it before. I ended up like, I think I was so moved by it. There was like 3 scenes where I was just really crying, and they're very, there's nothing really happening in them, but it was like these, what she captured so beautifully is like that feeling that I have as a parent of like, fuck, this is all slipping away from me, my kids are so precious. And I was literally watching the film being like, we need to book a holiday with our kids. I was like crying, thinking about the last holiday we had with our kids, which is so special. It was like flooding me with emotions because there wasn't actually very much anything happening in the scenes except tenderness, but like it's like making me reflect on being a parent. That's why I found it so emotional.
And I think I completely agree. And this movie is very clear that it is presenting to you the past, right? Like we're not presented with the present. Right.
Like I made inference that they're estranged, but I don't know if they are or not.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But I think what's important is she set this movie in the 90s, right? She's not set now. It's not. It is about the past, and it is about and it shows you the grown-up Sophie. So it's very much about her relationship with this past, and
she's watching the tape,
and how precious it is. And there is an implication of loss and a loss of a relationship, and I'm not sure the movie isn't 100% clear as to the details, but
because they seem like very, you know, obviously they don't see each other that often, and the dad like is, you know, very obviously like up and down, and at one point extremely irresponsible, and she gets locked out of the bedroom, but there seems to be love and tenderness and connection there, so it's interesting. It kind of feels like they never went on holidays again after that.
I'll tell exactly. I think the same. I think this is. I mean, the movie doesn't tell you. I'll tell you what I think in a second. But what it does give you is the feeling of nostalgia and loss.
Yeah.
And
like and then like the dad's very erratic.
He's not in her life, or he's not alive. It's one or the other.
Like
right?
he buys that rug for £800. We're talking the 90s. £800 is so much money. And then at the end she steps on the rug, and that kind of made me think, God, did he die? But then what was the nightclub scene where they were in a nightclub? Was she dreaming about it?
See, I don't know. That could have been metaphorical. But for me, I think one possibility is there's a really powerful shot where, awesomely done, where we see it's a panning shot, and it starts on the last frame of the video at the airport, and then we zoom out and we're seeing it on her modern flat screen TV, pans around to her watching it, pans around again to him. Now you're in
like a
his
disco behind
perspective.
him.
And this is metaphorical, this bit, but it's her. I think it's her imagining him going from what that picture is. That's the last time she saw him until she saw him at that disco, and he was a mess. That's my implication.
Oh, do you think that
years
happened?
Later, I think either.
So do you think the disco scene happened?
I think it did. I think she saw him when he was spiraling out of control. The movie implies, you know, he has addiction issues. He has several injuries he doesn't remember receiving.
Yeah.
He is clearly dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts, right? There's a suicide note on a postcard. There's a very
did that postcard arrive in the future, or
no? I thought that was in the movie plays with time in unusual ways, but I thought that was him after he had gotten back, because he's sitting on the bed naked from when he went into the ocean. So he clearly had written her the note, went out.
It is dark, yeah. It's very there's loads going on, and I think you're right about that, like feeling of we don't know what happened to them in the future, but like it's also really interesting because in the future she's probably like about our age now, right, in her mid to late 30s, and she has a baby. And imagine watching back that video and she's probably thinking, bloody hell, he was a baby when he had her. Like she was like an 11-year-old girl away with a 30-year-old guy, and he was her dad, and he was having all these issues, and like he's doing the best he can probably. God, I'm actually crying thinking about it. It's very moving.
Like, he was such a sad character and really relatable and because he's somebody, he talks about not fitting in, you know. He's somebody who's trying really hard to live, you know? He's reading Tai Chi books. He's kind of full of passion and he's full of mischief, like throwing the bread rolls at the stage and running away. But he's someone who's just so overwhelmed with despair and emotion or whatever he is dealing
And like
with.
when he can't get up on stage with her and sing karaoke, that's really sad.
It's
like
telling.
she gets left on stage by herself.
And we and you can look at that two ways, and you can look at it and say, dick move, like it was really like awful for him to have let that happen, but he is clearly in that moment
He was like, I can't.
he is incapable, and he says, I cannot do this, and it's just, and it was tragedy. The whole thing had an undercurrent of tragedy, and she can't really understand any of this at this stage, and I think it's her as an adult kind of piecing it together.
Like he says it's really terrible, I left you locked out of the room, and she's like, no, it's fine. Like she's just like trying to brush it off, but he knows like that is, he left his daughter on her own in a holiday resort around like drunk men.
Oh my god, when she was wandering around lost, and then that boy grabbed her from behind. I mean, you're just on edge.
And especially even when he let her go off play snooker with those teenage boys, and he went like, he should never have left her. And they're the moments where you're like, oh, but the film was like, the film was too calm, I guess, for anything like that to happen. But anyway, we should stop talking about it. I'm actually getting really upset thinking about it. I think as well, like, this is so lame, but like today I was trying to dance with Oscar like we always do, and he wouldn't dance with me, so that he was just like, no, I'm playing Lego. And I was like, it's like, oh god, he's 5 now and he just doesn't always want to do the things I want to do. And then when he was dancing,
he's
with
been
her,
a real teenager lately as well. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, and then when the dad was trying to dance with her, and then she did dance with him, I was just like, oh.
Oh, that final scene, well, I was bawling because
we were both crying,
say,
and the teenagers next to us were on their phone.
But I also got to say, the other thing I was really impressed by was her use of pop music.
Pop music was so in the background though.
But it was often just used in the background for scene setting or whatever. But there were 2 moments where she spends a lot of time on the lyrics. She lets you linger on these pop songs, and they're happening like diegetically, and the lyrics have
like,
meaning and impact. This is our last dance.
And I broke down.
And then this is ourselves, right? And I thought that like all of that like applied to what was happening on screen. But she was also like, she put she and whoever her sound guy and editor was, sound person, sorry, not guy, like they laid in the orchestral score under the Bowie Queen's track. And there was another one when she's singing the karaoke song and they're showing the words, and it's all like that REM song was hitting hard.
That girl actress like was so good. It just
she's phenomenally good. Like.
She's just unreal. Anyway, listen, we need to get off because we're nearly home. But so look, we both loved it and felt really moved by it. If you're still listening and you're on Spoiler Street, you should have seen it. So let us know what you think. Find us on social platforms at The Cinemile on Twitter, Instagram, or thecinemile@gmail.com. We've also actually built our own social media platform now because we can't figure out how to use Mastodon. So we'll drop that in the comments.
Have we?
And we're
are you talking about our Patreon?
No, we will have built one by tomorrow.
Oh, we're going to build one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the meantime, head over to patreon.com/cinemile, where we have the most fun and we do retro movies and TV reviews.
New retro movie coming your way very soon.
Yeah.
And what else are we doing? We're watching Love is Blind.
We're watching The White Lotus.
The White Lotus, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, loads of good stuff.
So patreon.com/thecinema.
Yeah, sorry for the audio quality. I've been recording tonight. Dave.
I'm looking at this microphone, it's all over the place.
I'm glad you're on the
ball. You've got it up in my face. You've got it over here. The levels are going to be a mess.
I'm glad you're on the Paul Mescal train. Now you need to go back watch Normal People.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I missed the Normal People band train. Do I really need to go back and should I?
You just need to watch the scenes where he played Ga.
No, I don't need that. Although I'm very, very impressed by him.
Yeah, me
he
too.
felt like that character. Both of those people just felt like a real father and daughter.
I felt like I was actually watching Home Videos.
And I wanted them to succeed. I felt the whole movie was just very sad. It was tinged with happy because it's mostly like happy, and they're trying, but it's like it is that it's nostalgia, like you said. It's like it's that happiness tinged with sadness because you're watching it from the present almost.
But also holidays are a bit like that, and the girl said it at one point as well, like you've had a brilliant day and then you can feel really down because you're like,
oh yeah, that was
you
great
know when
dialogue.
you're on holidays and you're like, God, I'm having such a good time, but you're already like, fuck, I've 3 days and then I have to go back to work or whatever. Holidays are like such a, and like holidays, like say we were on holidays with our kids this year and we just had the best week, the four of us, and like in that week we all enjoyed each other's company so much, whereas when you're at home you're like distracted by work, laundry, whatever, and you just like time passes and like you don't remember it as well. Like you really remember holidays, because every day is like really intentional.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm gonna start crying again, but I love it, and Oscar better dance with me next weekend.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Wish we could have stayed for longer.
Me too.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.